here we are. This is Sex Love Psychedelics, and I'm your host, Dr. Kat. Bringing you psychosexual conversations that will leave you intellectually turned on and hungry for more.
So there's a common pattern I've seen over the 14 years I've been doing this work of the women freezing because they're a man or consenting to unwanted sex. And I've repeated this in many podcasts. So if you're interested in that topic, tune into my past episodes. But there's this where the guy will say, they'll have this urgency and pressure in their body that they have this need that they have to get met. And it just perpetuates this freezing and freezing and freezing in the partner. They really want their partner to be able to attune to them more, or to be with them more, or to be able to do something with their own energy so that they don't have to be the one to take care of them every time. What's your perspective? What have you seen? How would you support somebody, or how would you?
That is a beautiful question. And I see it in both directions. Sometimes it's the man that shuts down, sometimes it's the woman, and vice versa. Yeah. And my mind goes into two different ways in which that dynamic in the relationship can be shifted. And the first one, for the person that is freezing or receiving the type of act of sex from their partner that they're not really wanting, my mind goes into two different places. One is sovereignty. Like, let us not forget that just because we're in a relationship doesn't mean that it is still our duty and our responsibility to fully advocate for ourselves. Hey, my love, I love you to death. I think you're super sexy, and I'm not enjoying sex or intimacy coming into this type of place. And that's a conversation that, yes, it's very challenging, but I think that when we're in intimate relationships, when we're in partnership, or we're living with somebody, or kissing somebody, or having sex with somebody, and this was something that I learned from my mom. She used to tease me. This is a tiny little side note, but I think it's funny. She used to tease me because I would have like sexual playmates, like, friends with benefits. And I'd be like, oh, I want to tell him XYZ, but I'm shy. And my mom's like, you're having sex with him. How are you shy to just say, this thing? And she's like, it makes no sense. And so that really helped me kind of shift my perspective of like, yeah, if I'm sharing my body with this human being and we're in a partnership, then yes, let me advocate for myself and say like, hey, there's different ways in which I want us to kind of expand or enhance the ways in which we connect. The other piece when it comes to sovereignty is when you get that freeze response, is noticing how that feels in your body. And when there's time for you to be alone, how can you, what's the word I want to say? I'm going to say shift for lack of the other word that I want to say, but how do you begin to create this relationship with your body to where when that type of thing happens, like you can still stay present and you can stay open and receptive to the experience. That doesn't mean you say yes to it, but so that you're not kind of bracing yourself and going back into a trauma response because of it. And so it's like, how do you self-regulate? That's the word I wanted to use. Mm-hmm. And then the third piece is like, can you lead? Can you lead the relationship in that direction? Can you be the first one to provide the sense of sensuality, or slowing down, or giving yourself the type of touch, or maybe even, offering your partner that touch, maybe not being like, hey, I'm going to, start doing it this way, but just showing it with your body language, showing it with your energy, and seeing how that can really begin to influence it versus, and I'm saying this from experience, my experience, and what I've seen other people do is kind of fall victim to, well, this is what's happening in my partnership, therefore it needs to continue this way. And I don't like it, but I'm not going to do anything about it. Personal empowerment. And we have to claim the type of sex life that we want. And we have to claim the levels of intimacy that we want. And again, when we were talking about much earlier in this podcast of like, what is pleasure? Pleasure does not always feel good.
Yeah.
But pleasure is going to connect you to yourself, and pleasure is going to connect you with your partner. And some of those uncomfortable conversations can really bring the two of you closer together. And then as the partner that is kind of like, rushing, my heart goes out to people that still have the programming of sex is point A, point B. Mm-hmm. Because again, that's just what we're taught. So it's like it's important to not judge or throw any shade in that direction. And how do we begin to have these conversations with our partners? Or if we notice, oh, wow, I'm that partner, I'm the one that's kind of, going quickly into sex. Can you also take sovereignty and kind of create this practice of, okay, how can I slow down? How can I eat my food a little bit slower? How can I just massage my partner and, see what comes up. It can be boredom, it can be expectation, it can be arousal, but make play dates to where it's like, hey, we're going to connect and we're going to kiss and we're going to make out. No penetrative or maybe even genital touching is going to happen during this time, and kind of create these exercises and games. But I think it's a sense of reprogramming, a sense of sovereignty, and a sense of like taking intentional action to shift that in the relationship. It's not this person's doing something wrong and they're the one to judge or to blame. It's like, how is this creating, or I find relationships, and my partner and I have been together for 2.5 years and we've gone through portals beyond fucking, I mean, dating this man has been a fucking ayahuasca journey, and I've never fucking taken ayahuasca. It's been beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time in the most amazing ways. But I'm saying that to say this, our relationships, it's a beautiful form of intimacy, and true intimacy, when you're in a partnership with somebody and you get to see your quote unquote blockages or your quote unquote programming. And a lot of us unintentionally and unconsciously kind of bicker or create stories or leave the relationship. And if it's a healthy, conscious relationship, and if there's love there, how can you see these patterns that a lot of us have globally and say, hey, babe, let's go on this journey together and see what the fuck we uncover. And I think that's so much more important than, I mean, I love amazing sex, and it is very important to have amazing sex in the bedroom, but that layer of intimacy and true vulnerability is what we're actually looking for in relationships and in the bedroom and in life.
Yeah. We're on a team. We're on a team together, and we are unconsciously contributing to the dance and the dynamic. So how can we pause, take ownership? And it may take us some curiosity and really like getting into the sensual work, like you're saying, and get with that, and get with the, oh God, no, not that
and
part.
looking at our own, I think, again, a big piece on sensuality, and why I say mindset work is embodiment work. Like, where is your narrative that is creating that in your own body? You know?
Yeah.
And that, you know, it's the little pieces of shadow work. And one of the things that I really love, and that I'm wanting to really build more in my business, is like, how do we go into shadow work? How do we go into the journey of reassociating or transitioning from disconnection to sensual liberation, and make it fun and sexy and flirty and empowering? Because I remember when I first got into this work, not only from therapy from childhood, but also like in the very beginning, it felt so heavy because I was on a mission to fix a problem. And so it just felt very like, oh. And one of the things that I want to invite us all to kind of shift over, kind of feeling that, is like, how can we just learn something new about ourselves every day? How can we just make these little shifts of like, oh, okay, that was something that I was doing or something that I was feeling. I'm not jiving with it. How do I shift this? And so there's this lightheartedness or this openness, and it doesn't mean ugly emotions and tears and things aren't going to come up. They definitely will. It's a part of life. But how do we just enjoy the process of connecting deeper?
Well, that was fun. Thanks for tuning in, lovers. And if you want to experience more ecstasy and sexual liberation, head over to sexlovepsychedelics.com and learn about how you can join me for any one of my online or live events. And while you're there, grab my free guide on sex and psychedelics. Remember, this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please contact your healthcare provider and local law before pursuing any of the products or psychedelics discussed. And one final note here. I make this show specifically for you. If you're loving the show, then be sure to leave me a review in iTunes or Spotify to let me know. Happy to be here and happy to serve. I'll see you next time on Sex Love Psychedelics.